business in Helsinki. We help them with all the processes and then of course I'm involved more in startups. So typically it's a team, 2-3 guys come to me and say that okay, we want to establish a business and the startups and what we should do. So we start to see in the agreements, shareholder agreements, and then of course establishing the companies, and then step by step up to the first fund, seed fund or angel fund. Usually then the startups leave and then they start to live their own life. So today we are speaking about business plan. What is a business plan? Business plan is a document that should help you within your business. But the problem is that I've been reading thousands of business plans, but they are not plans. They are stories. Because usually people speak about the business, speak about what they are going to do, and this and that. But plan is a plan. And when you make a plan, should include period of time, metrics, what you are going to achieve, when and how and who. And this is, unfortunately, is something that always is missing for this plan. So that's why I'm saying that I've been reading a lot of business stories, but not actually plan. And because you write stories and not plans, usually you write the story and then you put on the desk and you forget about that. But actually the business plan should be a document that it's first of all it's a live document, mainly that you have to update step by step when you are proceeding with your business, and usually you have version 1, the first version. Then maybe after 6 months you adjust a little bit the scope of the company or the business whatsoever, customer, markets. Then you have maybe the version 2 and so forth and so forth. So actually you should update the business plan, and the business plan should be kind of the red line for your business, and it should guide you in your everyday tasks. And why we need business plans? We need business plans for many reasons, but I think the most important reason is that should be the guideline for your business, for your daily activities. But also you need business plan when you are asking for money. This is the second, maybe most important reason. Usually if you go to a bank asking for a loan, or if you're asking money from angel investor or whatsoever, everybody's always asking you a business plan because they want to see what you are going to do. And then, as I say, that the third, maybe most reason is that for your customer, for example, for your partners, it's always a document that can be given. So, what are the most important things that you have to have in your business plan? Here are the 7, but. From the internet, you will find, if you just search business plan, you will find hundreds of web pages where you can find different type, different models. Maybe in the US is a little bit different than what we use in Europe, but these are mainly the most important things that you should have there. So we start with the summary. The summary should be a kind of summary. Yeah. So a very short description of all business plan and all the things that you are going to do. But this summary shouldn't be longer more than 1 page. Actually, half page should be enough. And here you put just the main things about your business plan. Basically, what you are doing, who is your main customer, markets, and objectives, of course. Then, of course, the team, and the team is very important part, because actually many investors, they are not investing on the plan or on the idea or on the business itself, but they invest in people. I always say myself that you can have the best business plan in the world, but if you don't have the right people to implement the business plan, it's no worth to do anything. So it's very important that you can map actually your team, your expertise, what you need, what you have, what you are looking for, just to make your team the best to implement the plan. And the SWOT analysis is very basic, but it's very important. I think that it's giving you an idea, better idea about your team and also about yourself. By the way, the business plan, it's why I always suggest to write the plan, the business plan, because actually when you write something, you have to think first, you have to think deeply, second, and then when you write down, it's like, you know, it's like your mind, your brain act differently. So when you write down something, actually it's something that really you have to understand first yourself. Because if you write something and you don't understand yourself, what you write down, you can imagine about the investor or about other people that will read the plan. So that's also very important, and that's why I suggest, and also I suggest that usually a business plan shouldn't be longer than 10 pages. Actually, if you have 7 things here that are the main things that you have to have in the business plan, actually 1 page per chapter should be enough. If the business plan is longer than 10 pages, then you are really writing a story, not a business plan. So try to be focused, try to be concise, and avoid all these things, blah, blah, blah. Just put the fact there. And as I say, that metrics, goals, and so forth and so forth. Product and services. Here is everything about what you do. Is it product? Is it a service? How you are going to sell the product? How you're going to distribute the service? And by the way, you will have these documents, so you don't have to take pictures. And secondly, I always say that you shouldn't put so much text in your slides, in your presentation. But actually, I thought that I will do a kind of documents that actually you don't need after this. Go and search for something, because this should be a kind of when you start to do the business plan, actually you can take this and just start to do it. So that's why I wanted to put as much things as possible, and you can. I'm sorry. It's okay. Yeah. I always forget to. Okay. Now it's mute. So that's why I put there so many things, that this could be or will be for you a kind of guide when you start to write your business plan. So I was saying that the product and the services. So here basically you have to write down about your product, about your services, how you're going to sell, who you will sell, and you have the list there. I'm not going to say every step. But when we speak about medical stuff, medical devices, medical things you might be more aware than me. That of course IPR, regulatories, and legal aspects is very important. And maybe in this sector, maybe even more important than not in a typical, let's say, software business or something like that. Yeah. If you have questions, you can either interrupt me or after the session you can ask me. I will stay here for a while if you have yeah.
This IPR?
Yeah.
IPR?
Intellectual property rights. So it's basically when you do something, who owns the properties, the intellectual properties. So and for this there is legal offices that usually do these kind of things. So if you do something, let's say you is an innovation, and you want to patent the innovation, you have to look at if there are already this kind of rights, and if there is already patents done or filed for that certain whatever what you do. And yeah, usually we are speaking about IPR. Yeah, and then of course I have some business card as well if you want to contact me later on. Customer and markets. This is actually something that is also knowing your customer. It's I think it's the main thing in your business. And unfortunately, here as well, many times people start to think about business, start to think about what they do, but actually they don't take so much efforts in the customer side. I don't know if it's a typical Finnish way of doing that. Basically, the typical story in Finland is that somebody invents something and he thinks that this is what all the world people need. and many times, actually it's not the case. And even is the case, you cannot serve all the people in the world, but you have always to choose the niche where actually your product is well, let's say that the niche where it's the most potential business for you. Well, what's that? So basically we are speaking about customer segmentation, and the customer segmentation can be done by age, by gender, by cultural or whatever segmentation, and then of course to find out how people usually make the decision to buy or not to buy some service, to buy or not to buy some product. Once again, when we speak about medical devices or usually medicines or whatsoever, it's a little bit different. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that you don't have to understand what will be, for example, your channel through you will sell what you are going to do. So this is actually pretty general, and of course when we're speaking about medical stuff, we have always to think about how the medical sector usually work, who are the players there, and try to understand more how the sector, how the players works. This is something that the most you find out things, and the less the risk that you will do mistakes will be. So this is just general things that when you do something, whatever you do, business plan, thinking about your market, thinking about your customer, try to find out the most as possible you can. Because I say that when you know and when you make your decision based on these facts and not assumptions, in that way you degrade the margin of doing mistakes. Just overall comments.
So, Luca,
Yeah.
can I mention one thing here? So my job is, as Lucas said, we meet plenty of startups every week, approach them, check their plans, business plans, and so forth. So most of these companies, they just neglect this thing that what Lucas said, that we have a good idea. In Finland, there's 100,000 people that might like our idea. In Scandinavia, 1 million. In Europe, 10 million. But that's not the issue. Ideas there are really plenty. I mean, there's a huge amount of ideas. I'm really surprised how much people can invent. But the challenge is that you really know your market, and that's what they're lacking. Most of these companies I have met, they have not really gone out and asked people, potential customers, we have this type of thing that we think that you might buy. How much would you pay for it? Who would pay for it? What do you like? What do you don't like? But they don't do it for some reason. I know it's not easy, but you have to do it, because if you ask for some investors' money, that would you believe in my idea? I will give you some money, and then we start to try out that can we get it to commercialize or not. It's too late. So this is something that I would really.
Yeah. So here actually I put in red. Many people come to me and say that, okay, I've been asking around and actually people are interested in what I'm doing. And always I ask, okay, everybody can be interested. But there is so many things in your life that is nice to know, is nice to have. Have you asked people are willing to buy, are willing to pay something for what you are doing? And that is what actually most of the case people say that, no, actually I didn't ask. Because think about yourself. How many things we own? How many applications we have in our mobile phones? And every time when you have to, so actually there is two things, and Therese might be can be say wrong or right, but there are two things where people actually can change their mind very easily. When we speak about time and when we speak about money. So many times when you ask for help, everybody's willing to give you help. But when you ask them, okay, when we can arrange, then people start to think, okay, but actually, maybe I have to go there, I don't have time. Then they call and say that, sorry, but I have to. This is one thing, and then the second thing is money. So actually, and this is the case when people say that, okay, this is nice, this is interesting what you are doing, but when you ask, okay, are you paying something for this? Then people start to change their mind. Then they start to say that maybe no, maybe I don't know, and that's why we have all this kind of psychology on how people their habits when they buy something. Why we have these prices $9.99, $4.99? It's not just because like that, because there is psychology behind that. There is people that buying something $9.99 is much easier to buy than not 10.2 or 10.5 or 11 whatsoever. So and these are the things that you have to always think: how the customer behave, how they make the decision, how they where they buy, why they buy, how they buy, whatsoever. So this is very important to understand the market, to understand the customer. Competition. So somebody can say that forget about the competition. Do what you are going to do your best, and just forget the competition. And well, I don't know. You have to find the balance, like in everywhere. I'm not saying to look at too much at the competition because sometimes then you start to act like your competitors, which is sometimes the case, sometimes not. But I would never underestimate your competition. So knowing your competitors, knowing how they sell their products, how they do marketing, how they approach the markets, it's something that maybe can be good to know. But as I say, that these are the things that you have to find yourself. There is no wrong and right way to do things. Actually, there is no wrong and right in everywhere. So
it's not easy to find out how they do it because it's kind of competitors' own knowledge that they will not share with you how they sell and how much they want money for the products.
well, as I say, that sometimes yes, sometimes no. If you go to a shop to buy a TV, there are plenty of TVs, plenty of brands, plenty of models, and you see the product, you see the products, you see the price, and so forth and so forth. As I say, that always is case by case. As I say, that there is no one way to do. Depends on the markets, depends on the products, depends on the service whatsoever. But nevertheless, try to find out as much as you can. But as I say, that I was reading a book where actually these guys say that forget about your competitors, focus on your things, do it at your best, and you will succeed. As I said, you have to find your way. But as I say, that nevertheless, try to find out something. Michael Porter has written a lot of books about competitive advantages, because also sometimes looking at your competition, basically, you can also do better your products or your way to do marketing whatsoever. So it's not a way to copy, but it's more a way to improve yourself, improve your products, improve your activities. So then something about your company. And here basically, for example, how the company is structured, where it's located. Once I was consulting a company, and the company said that, okay, we are going to open our European office in Bratislava. Okay, I said, Bratislava? Why Bratislava? Well, actually, because I have a girlfriend there. Okay, good reason. So don't do what you want, but basically, when you think about the location, for example, of your company, if you have some production, for example, some manufacturing, you have to once again to find out what would be the better location. So why pulp and papers manufacturing plant are mainly located near the water because they need water for the process, or let's say nuclear plants, they are always located usually very close to the water because they need water. So whatever you do, once again, if you need some kind of raw material or you need some kind of expertise, why company want to be in Silicon Valley or why company want to be in Espoo or in Helsinki, there is always, or try to find the reason why you should locate your company somewhere else. Maybe because you find better talents there, you find better researcher or whatsoever. So try to think about these areas. And then of course the workforce is very important today. If you need coders, if you need, as I said, research or whatsoever. And then, of course, the company board or advisory board. This is something that usually when there is a startup or when we are speaking about startups, I never suggest to have the board, the official board, because actually the official board it's not really important. What you need when you start, you need an advisor. You need a person that can guide you in different areas. Maybe in financial areas, because it doesn't mean that everything you have to learn by yourself or you have to do by yourself. So maybe you need some advisor for the financial area, some advisor in the technical background or medical background, whatsoever. But that is very important, and that is also something that where investors look at. So having a good advisory board, it's good as well as having a board. But the fact that the advisory board is not binding like the company board. Because the company board actually is in charge of what in the company is happening. So if the company go bankrupt, actually the board is also involved in that. So that's why maybe it's easier to get good advisors than not actually people that want to be in the board, official board. And then the financials. Here's something that where actually I always try to emphasize as much as I can. Because actually I can say that most of the case where actually company, and it basically, especially in Finland, here's the place where actually, once again, people don't get enough attention. So we have statistics. In Finland, startups, so a young company, usually has 2 years as life. So meaning that the major of the company that are established today in Finland, in 2 years are dead. And if you consider that in Europe, for example, this kind of average life of startups, it's 4 years. And this is the reason why, so first of all, we don't have enough capital here in Finland, and we don't have the market that can support. So if you think about startups in Germany, startups in Italy, startups in France, they have their own local market that they can support their business for a while. In Finland, unfortunately, we don't have that. And then, as I said, that because we are lacking of capital, here in Finland, 2 years, it's where actually the startup do the break even or not. And then many younger people think that, okay, we establish the startups, then we get money, investor money, and then we can do whatever we want. This is not the case. Unfortunately, as I say, that because in Finland we don't have so much capitals. Actually, so there is a history why we are in the situation where we are. During Nokia in Finland, basically, or let's say not in Finland, but actually this country didn't need anything else because Nokia was paying everything for this country. Was paying university, was the locomotive for the financial, government financial, what's everything. And that's why in Finland, all this, what we call financial mechanism, they didn't develop. If you think that in Finland, 5 years back, it was just 2 or 3 venture capitalists. And if you think about 5 years back, asking a loan from the bank for your company, it was almost impossible. And so now we are trying to catch up, but it's a long way. The fact that young people, and then of course why we if you think that in Finland, when it was Nokia, was 60,000 people employed in Nokia, just only in Finland, and then all the network. So basically, when Nokia disappeared from this country, we had this recession. We had almost 20% of unemployment. So the young people that, and then of course because in Finland it's a place where we have still one of the best school system. So what's happened during these 5-10 years that the universities start to graduate good people, good engineer, good whatever. But because was any more big companies in Finland recruiting, because actually so now during the last years pulp and paper is coming back. But basically in Finland disappeared totally pulp and paper, wood industry, mechanical industry still something, but not as much as was. So basically the young people, what they did, they graduated from the university. It wasn't enough jobs in Finland, so they start startups. So if you can imagine that the last years only in the capital area was established 4,000 startups, 4,000. And the capital basically is the same. So that's why now more and more we have more startups competing for the same money, because actually the money on the let's say in this area available for startups, the money didn't grow as much as the number of startups. So today, as I say, that the situation is that funding rounds are much longer. But if you think about techers as well, 5-10 years back, you didn't need too much to get techers fund. Today, also techers, they let's say they tighten their criteria how to give money to company. So as I say, that it's not that easy. But coming back to the financial plans, when you have a very good plans where actually all your financial, what you need, what you are spending, and so forth, you can plan actually the money. Then you are in a safe. And usually people think that okay, we do this, we get the money from the investor, and then we are okay. And when there is not the case, then people get panic. Then the cash flow or actually the money in the cash start to finish, and then people are panic and they don't know what to do. So this is where comes the plan B, and so especially in the financial side, it's always good to have the plan B, because I can tell you, as I say, that I saw many cases where actually people didn't have the plan B, and then the things were wrong. So try to plan everything very well, but especially all your financials. Once again. So the money that you need, the money that you spend, and how long you will survive with that amount of money that you have right now. And usually, I always say that put 3 months at least like a buffer, because once again, it's good if everything go like a plan, but if not, then you have some time to think about it and to make the adjustments. And sales projections. here is once again where people make a lot of mistakes. They forecast to get the turnover too early, meaning that usually the case is that the product is not on the market when it was planned, or there is some delay whatsoever. So every day that you are lacking of turnover or whatsoever, every day anyway you have your fixed cost in the company, and every day there is the delay. Also your plan it's going let's say worse and worse. So the sales, it's very important, and this is what I say, that the best investor in your company is actually is not the investor, but it's the paying customers. So try to get your product as soon as possible on the market. Try to plan as soon as possible the turnover, and not just hoping that you will get fund and you will get investments. Because as I say that, beside that, when you go to talk to an investor and you say that we have already customers, it's a totally different thing than you go and talk that we don't have yet customers. So in terms of credibility, in terms of everything, when you go to a customer, to an investor and say that, okay, we have business running and we have customer already, we have some turnover, I'm not saying that you have to have already thousands or 10,000s of euros per month, but just to show that actually we have been doing this and that, and then if we get money, we can scale our business and so forth and so forth. So this is all about your credibility and giving the trust that your business or your product is really something that somebody can pay for. Then I wanted to put here, because many people come to me without the business plan, but they have the business model canvas or the lean canvas. So you can do, as I say that, you can do as you want. But usually I suggest to write a good business plan, and then from the business plan extract the model canvas. So the model canvas is a kind of quick and dirty thing. So when you want to show somebody very quickly what you are doing, some years back we were speaking about the one pager. So the one pager was a kind of actually was one page where actually you have to put all the things very briefly there, and this was kind of still few years back company were used to do this one pager. But then when it comes the model business canvas, then people or company start to do more and more this. So basically, as I say, that the business model canvas is nothing else than a picture of your companies, of your business in one page. So here are the main things: key partners, key activities, key resources, cost structure, value proposition, so forth. And here you have to, because you have just one page, here you have to put the things very precise and very short. But as I say, that it's easier when you have a good business plan. From that, do the business canvas. If you start to do the business canvas, can help, but can be more difficult. And beside that, because in the business canvas you cannot put actually all the details. As I say, that I always suggest to have the business plan, and then if you want, do the business model canvas. The lean canvas came after the business model canvas. The lean canvas came when actually I don't know how many of you have heard about the book the lean startup. Good. I suggest to read the book. It's very good. So the lean startup book actually, no, now you don't have to read because I tell you what it's all about. Actually, the lean startup book, it's nothing else that the book where this guy is explaining how he failed in his startups. So how he failed? As many Finnish engineers, he developed a service and then put a lot of efforts, put a lot of time, put a lot of money in developing the service. They launched the service and nobody was willing to pay this, to buy the service. So he said that why nobody's willing to buy the service? This is good. So he tried to modify something, blah, 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 and spent again money, time, and so forth. And then once again was presenting the service and still nobody wanted to buy. So the guy ended up that the company went bankrupt and so forth and so forth. And these guys decide to write the book about this failure. So why he failed and what is the message of the book? That when you start to do something, at the very beginning, start to interact with your customers. So this means that try to find somebody that actually some potential customer can guide you during your development and basically try to interact as much as possible with the potential customer in order to not end up to the situation where you develop something and then the market or the customer is not willing to buy. So basically the Lean Canvas came out of these lean startups ideology, let's say. So the approach is a little bit different. So the approach here is where you recognize the problem that some customer can have or some people can have, and then you define the solution and then the metrics how you will measure. And this is about the product. So this area. And this area is about the market, about the customer, and how you're going to take the product to the customer and so forth and so forth. So the Lean Canvas actually is also a kind of live documents where actually you update time to time or when you start to develop and you interact continuously with your customer. So basically you will find things that on the first beginning you weren't thought, and then you update the canvas. But as I say, that this is also well, actually, if I would suggest from the business model canvas and the Lean Canvas, maybe this is something that helps you to understand a little bit more about the problem solutions and then the market. But as I said, it depends. Depends on what you are doing and depends on the type of your startup, of your market, of your customers, of your products, services, and so forth. But you have to find out what fit better for you. But nevertheless, I always suggest start with the business model, a good business model, and then after that, look at the canvas. Is it the business model canvas or the Lean Canvas that can fit better for your purpose? Then here, as I say, that if you search on Google, you will find hundreds of pages about business models, how to write, what has to be there, whatsoever. Here, I try to put some few links. If you want to read more, if you want to get a little bit more knowledge about these things, you can go and look at these links. But as I say, that you can find a lot of them. Just Googling Lean Canvas, business model canvas, business model, whatsoever, you will find a lot of things. So I think this was my part. I don't know with the time, if it's in time or what.
still have plenty of time for
We have
discussion.
still plenty of time. Good. Now maybe questions. Yes.
You mentioned most of the startups fail in Finland that are within the next 2 years.
Yes.
So
98%.
98%.
Yes.
Okay. Is that because of the cash flow is not generating fast enough, or their burn rate is too big, or what's the biggest reason?
There is many reasons. I think the main reason is that all this startup phenomenon, Ilmiö, it's so young in Finland. As I say that for more than 10 years in Finland, when it was Nokia, we didn't have to think about startup. We didn't have to think about VCs. We didn't have to think about financial mechanisms because it was Nokia. So everything in Finland, almost what we are living now, all this welfare, has been built on top of Nokia. If you think that Nokia was paying 1/4 of the government budget was paying taxes, and this is why we as I say that 5 years back was only 3 VCs in Finland. In Finland you cannot do yet the B round. So we are speaking about investment rounds, seed round, angel round, seed round, bridge round, A round, B round, C round, and so forth and so forth. A round, it's, or let's say that angel round is about 15K. Seed round, it's about 100, 200, 250K. Bridge round, because in Finland usually people or company do bridge rounds, means that they do an additional seed rounds about 200, 250 before they do the A round. A round, we are speaking in Finland about 500 up to 1.5, 2 millions. But still, it's a big round. And in Finland, you cannot do B round. And we speak about B rounds about 5 millions up to 10, 50 millions. So in Finland, you cannot do B round because there is no VC with big capital. So the biggest fund in Finland, I think it's Lifeline Venture 150 or 170 millions as a fund. But if you think about US, if you think about Germany, the fund can be 1.5, 2, 3, 500 billions funds. So it's we are just starting. We don't know anything about startups. We don't know anything about investments. We just learn. Because as I say, that the boom of the startups has been maybe in Finland 2-3 years back, no more. I'm wrong.
No,
Okay,
right.
good. Yes.
One reason might be that most of the startups are really capital-intensive business. Let's say you build a cloud service, and then you can't get 50% every year or every month back. Instead, if you establish a cleaning company, if you get one customer, you get right away revenue. And I think that is one of the most, you are telling the same story, but I'm telling the same thing from another perspective.
Yeah. Here are a few questions for you. Do you know why in Finland we have the most of the company are business to business and not business to consumer? What is the reason?
Consumers, that's low.
No, because you have all the world. If we not, let's say, let's not consider now the game sector, because the game sector is totally different things. And why we have game sector in Finland is because of Nokia. So the first game was, you remember the Snake? Yeah, that was the first game and was developed in Finland, and that's why we have this origin of games. In Finland, there's been always game developers. But why we have most of the company B2B and not B2C? There is one main reason. B2B is something where you get pretty soon the revenue, because you sell directly to the company. Company usually, if you do a service that is good for the company pay. But when we speak about business to consumer, the biggest assets there, it's marketing. Because actually, you cannot do business to consumer without marketing. And if you speak about marketing in Finland, we have 50,000, 100,000 budgets. What you do with 100,000 budget? Nothing. So that's the reason why. The second question is that why in Finland we have so much this kind of pöytälaatikko companies, meaning that are these companies that are out of the register, but so companies that are in the register but are not active. So do you know why?
They still work and try for fun.
No. Because no, because in Finland actually you can establish a startups LTD company, meaning that it's OU. You can establish in 3-4 days. If you consider in Italy, it's a nightmare. You need the lawyer, you need the notaries, you need whatsoever. It takes you 3 months and it takes you 10,000 euros before you have the LTD company. In Finland, it takes you 4 days. You pay 380 euros for the PRH registration, and then you have to deposit 2,500 euros as a start capital. But why then we have so many companies that are in the register but not active? Because in Finland there is no way to close the company. In Finland the only reasonable way to close the company is through bankrupt. And you know what does it mean in Finland when you are bankrupt?
Totally fucked. Literally. In Finland, it's so
Pretty
in
much.
the US, they
Pretty
welcome
much.
you. Say,
Pretty much.
Yeah.
In US, people, I don't know if it's a story or whatsoever.
Yeah.
In US, they say that they don't consider you if you don't have 3 bankrupt on your path. Here in Finland, if you have bankrupt, you have here for 5 years a stamp here that bankrupt. You don't get loan anymore anywhere. You don't get credit cards and so forth for 5 years. And this is the answer, because we don't know exactly yet how to do with the startups. It's so young. We don't know how to plan. As I say that, I've been reading stories, but not plans. We don't know actually. We are just learning how to run the startups, how to run the ecosystem for startups, how the capitals work, how to everything, the workplace whatsoever. So we are still in a very, very early stage. We are learning. Yes.
So are NewCo and other accelerators advising government on this proposal how to shut down this company and remove the garbage?
I always say that I hate politics,
Yeah.
and I'm a businessman, and I know that when you are in a top level, then sometimes business and politics mix up together. But I always try to stay on the business side. That we have to, as I said, that because we are learning everything. Also, the government is learning maybe, and hope that they will find a solution for that. Yes.
Maybe the problem with startups is that they are concentrating on starting up. If they would concentrate on staying up, it would be much better. There are socks.
Yeah, good.
If you think
Yeah.
on socks, if you market them and pull up,
Yeah.
nobody will buy socks that
Yeah.
you pull up. But if you find socks that are stay up, then
Well,
so
there is-
why is all the business in Finland concentrating on starting up instead of standing up?
And once again, the answer is that because we are still learning how to
But
run.
why should we start to learn something that does not stay up if it has to start up?
Yeah.
It's semantics, I know, but
Yeah.
you find the answer there.
That's true. That's true. Yes.
Regarding the medical care
Sector, yeah.
specifically, you mentioned that rules and regulations and
Yeah, it's
topics
very
like that
important, yeah.
are really important.
Yeah.
Are there other topics that are specific to healthcare that you see in comparison to other sectors?
Yeah, there is a lot of things actually that differ. Let's say the medical sector from the more typical startups, and but always depend. Are you doing medical devices or medicine or method how to cure something? Because there actually the time is very long. If you think about medicine, you have before you get the medicine on the markets, maybe you have to do many years of trials, first on animals, maybe then on persons and so forth and so forth. So actually there the time are much longer and the capital involved are much bigger. These I think it's the main difference between the medical sector. But of course, we had software that has been developed, let's say, for the medical sector. Like we have now, what I've seen a few companies doing this kind of intelligent, artificial intelligence, in taking picture and analyzing the picture, you can realize if there is a cancer or not, or many different. So in this case, maybe the period is not too longer, like in medicine or like in a medical device. The medical device, of course, have to be approved, and the approval there are much more tighter than not people.
As a matter of fact,
Yep.
the software you describe, according to the law, it is a medical device. Medical device is not a physical thing.
That's true.
It's a software plus maybe a device or something
Yeah,
else.
that's true.
So the exact result.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's totally true. But as I said, that we have many different kind of software that has been used and can be used on the medical sector, and let's say the how they work. It's more or less, or let's say that it's more closer to typical startups. But yes, there are differences.
Because of that you have certainly two groups of services very strictly divided. One
Yeah.
you sell to patients
Yes.
and only to patients,
Yeah.
and the second one only to other businesses.
Yeah, hospital or whatsoever. But nevertheless, as I say that, nevertheless, whatever you do, plan as much as you can, because as I say that, no matter if you are doing medical device or something else, the planning helps you always to understand yourself, the logic of your business, the dynamic of your business, how your customer, is it a typical person walking on the street, or is the hospital buying your service? You have to understand how they make the decision to buy something. And when you find out as much as possible all these things, then, as I said, that your possibility to make mistake decrease. Yeah.
You mentioned that we in Finland are learning, yet we have lots of different hubs
Yes.
and communities
Yes.
that work on these topics.
Yes.
Are we also collaborating with similar communities abroad? So are we taking the learnings from Germany or France or Italy or US?
Not really. I think that we should more, but not enough. Not enough, but we should more.
Because we are actually now what Kaisa and Merja showed you that when they had this graphic A, B, C, D boxes. So there is a program now that Health Capital Helsinki has initiated. Then we have what we call SPAR, and that's the early phase companies, and they come out from universities. And like, let's say you would be a researcher and you're thinking that should I go to like the commercial path or should I not? Then this SPAR program, and it's originated from Stanford, so they will help you to look at your patent and to look at the like, basic stuff, and should there be a market for it. And then the next step would be that we have we and a NewCo is in the picture that we would look at. Let's say that you have went through the Spark and it seems that it's worthwhile for me to continue. Then we would help you to establish the company, to look at the business plan, to look at the financial options from where you should get some funding or could get some funding. And then the next step after that would be, and that's what was done last year, we sent 3 companies to Boston so that they would learn how to negotiate with VCs and investors in the United States. And it was a very good learning. I was not there, but they really liked it. And now we are building, and Timo is actually looking into this more in details, that we are looking at similar centers in Europe, maybe London, Berlin, Amsterdam, Frankfurt, where we would start to elaborate on cooperation so that we would learn, and also that so that we could tell about our companies to them, and they would have then these connections with investors and so on. So personally, I think that we should be much, much more international in our approaches. We should really reach out to even Scandinavia, speaking like Sweden, Denmark, and so on. So there's a lot. And as actually Luca said, that we are doing a lot of stuff and there's a lot of noise, but it's really just gradually building up.
Yes.
Yeah, you said like in Finland 2 to 3 years companies don't survive after that. And especially in healthcare, I think you need much more funding. There's hardly any funding. So is it advisable to even start companies in Finland, especially here?
No, we encourage you. And if you would ask me, like I'm working with this Health Capital Helsinki, and they are looking at this ecosystem. But if you would ask me one thing, if you can fix, what would that be? And that's exactly what the one thing would be, that we should establish a fund in Finland with 50 million, 15 million, 20 million, so that we could help you when you are in the initial stage. That we could give you 100,000 euros to get it developed. And one day that fund will be here. It's probably a combination of private money, public money, but and that's why it's so important to reach out to this international community.
But 100,000 for healthcare is like nothing.
In Finland, there is no fund specific for healthcare startups.
Yeah, so healthcare startup may be doing a software is fine for 100K, but 100K goes for even hiring a developer. A single developer is 100K.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a startup in healthcare with 3, 4, 5 people, you need $500,000 minimum.
I agree.
I mean, just to get started properly.
Yeah.
So that's why I said, is it logical for people to think already started in a way that maybe you can start, but you immediately go to other markets?
Yeah, but that's the problem, because as I say that here in Finland we do seed investment of 100 to 100K when you compare to US where the seed investment is already 500, 1 million.
Yeah.
And so basically there it's double or even 1-0 more.
Yeah.
But that's the reason, because we don't have the capitals and we are not.
I will probably say about the internal competition, which is not always good for Finland. Finland is a very small country, yet we have here maybe tens of firms that produce medical software, and they compete with each other on the internal market, are unable to sell it abroad, and all of these software are very imperfect, let's say. They should unite to sell the common product abroad.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I can just tell you an example. This Nordic Life Science Day will take place in Stockholm in September this year. And Norway, Denmark, Sweden, they have like country pavilions where they present their best startups and what they can offer in this sector. So now this year we try to do the same for Finland. So we would invite companies from all over the company to Helsinki and do exactly this, that we would showcase Finland as a good place if you're interested in life science, medtech, health companies. And just to be more like national in our approaches, not so that Turku or Oulu or Helsinki is doing something by themselves. And there's a reason also for this, because you get this public funding city-wise, so then there are some obligations, But I think in the longer run, maybe even 5 years, less than 5 years, there will be much more happening on a national level. And it has to take place because Finland is such a small place, small country, and then if you speak about small cities, so it's a losing game.
Yeah, well, my question also concerns that 2%. So, which 2% of the startup success efficiency? This is what I mean. So, in which country it is higher? What it should be in your point of view? Which country it is? And
I don't know the other countries, but for example, I know that in US about 70% the company fail. So it's already
30.
Yeah. So 30 can make the break even and 70 die. So in Europe it's about 4 years the time life because as I say that in European markets already the internal markets is good enough or big enough to support your activities. So here in Finland, as I say that because of that, many companies they have to go international already on the very beginning. And we know that going international, you need fund, you need capital. And that's why many companies, they don't make it.
so 30% is sort of excellent rate.
No, I don't know now excellent
Yeah.
or whatsoever.
What-
I know that 30% survive and 70 die. In Finland, it's
True.
much more, yeah.
So it's and that we are talking about the success rate is the survival rate actually.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is a startup? Is a new restaurant a startup in these numbers? Are
No,
they
actually,
comparable?
startups we consider in Finland company that are going to scale the business internationally.
Yeah.
So also restaurant can be a startup. We have concept, where actually restaurant, where actually if you think about Zalando started as a startup, but is on the fashion business. So we have cases that it doesn't mean that the startups has to be software, has to be this and that. We have concept where actually, as I say that I've been reading now regarding Arcot, a company that make the brand, and now the brand is establishing everywhere in the world. So the startup, it's something that you are going to scale international in a large scale.
And is the description of the Germany 30% the same?
No, US.
US, sorry.
US. Yes, usually yes.
But isn't that the reason the US itself is such a large market for the company that they can
No,
survive?
the US market is much older. If you think about, so this is something that I always say that go to Israel.
Yeah.
Because actually Israel, it's more or less the same amount of people like in Finland, but in Israel they are 50 years ahead. Israelis invented VC, what we call VC today, venture capital. What is venture capital? Venture capital is taking the money from somebody who has the money and loaning to somebody else, and then paying the interest, which is usually in equity. So how the venture capitalists start? The Israeli country when get the independence in the 48. Sorry. So basically, this guy, and if you know, let's say that I think one of the most well-known company that started, it was PointSec. So PointSec was a encryption company that encrypt your hardware with an algorithm that actually was become obsolete for the Israeli army, and usually in the very beginning all the startups from Israel were very technical and actually were technology that were spin-off from the army, so became obsolete for the Israeli army and then commercialized for the normal people. So Poinsec was one of the first company that was. So these guys, they couldn't do business with the neighbor country because they are all Arab country. So what they had to do, this company, because also Israeli markets is very small and so forth and so on, they had to internationalize. So what they did at that time, the company, if they would come to Europe, would mean that they have to establish in every country all the organization. So what they thought, okay, let's go to US, because US, it's one market, one currency, and then of course the Jewish community in US is very strong. So basically these guys, they go there. And then of course, as maybe you know, in Israel, there is this mentality of helping each other, this kamputzi and so forth and so forth. So Israeli, basically the community, once you have or you are Jewish Israeli, no matter where you live or where you come from, you will always find your own community everywhere. So this guy, they went to US, and then they find the Jewish community in US and start to loan the money from these guys and say, okay, now we make the business, and once we are success, we pay back. And this is actually the start of venture capital. And this is why all the biggest venture capital in US, think about Sequoia, Bloomberg, Horowitz, they are all Jewish. They are all Jewish funded. And if you think that in Israeli, I think that in average 10 companies every year make billions exit. What is the difference from the exit in Israel and the exit what we did in Finland? Supercell. Supercell has been so far the biggest exit in Europe as a 10 billion exit. Do you know how much money remain in Finland from that 10 billion? About 1 billion. Why? The difference, when an Israeli company make the exit, almost half of the exit go back to Israel. This why? Because in Finland we cannot do B rounds. So what does it mean? And what's happened with Supercell? Supercell, they did a small seed round in Finland, but the first biggest round was done out of Finland. What does it mean? That all the capital, all the equity of the company already go out from Finland. So what does it mean? That when the company make the exit, because the measure of the equity is already out of Finland, of course the money would not come to Finland when the company make the exit. What's happening in Israel? In Israel, because in Israel they have money to do rounds or to grow up the company with their own money, keeping the equity, the measure of the equity in Israel, when the company even make the exit in US, because half of the equity is still on the ownership of Israeli people, the money come back to Israel. That's why in Israel, you know, if you think about medical sector, if you think about software, if you think about whatever, it's much, much far away from Finland. Yes?
Just a couple of corrections.
Okay, I'm not, yeah.
I would say, first of all, that it's not so much the fact that Israelis help each other. Actually, among Israelis, there is nothing that help each other less than Israelis.
Maybe now, yeah.
Mainly the fact that you don't have anything else.
Yeah.
So when you don't have any other options, you actually make sure that your idea succeeds.
Yes, sure.
And in terms of the reason why so many Jewish families have made all of their companies like Bloomberg and others that you mentioned, actually that comes from Jewish tradition that has nothing to do with Israel per se. It has to do with the fact that Jews were not allowed to have land when they were in Europe.
Yeah.
And therefore, they were into the lending business and venture capital that already strong.
Yeah, that's really, Probably yes, but regarding the company and regarding the venture capitalists, because the venture capitalists actually was born about the 70s. So about that years actually, the most of the technical company from Israel start to get out of the country. So, but yes, but let's say that there is a lot of common things regarding the business and why anyway in Israel there are many billions exit per year. Yes.
Then the people who invest in startups, how much are they interested to get their money back? If there's like close to 100% of the money that is lost, how much?
Well,
how
the
many of them get
the investor don't think anything else than money.
Yeah.
So the investor think that I put 10,000 euros, how many times I can get back my money when the company make the exit. It's very simple. The investor don't think too much about anything else.
But how often do they get the money back and how often not? Because
there is this portfolio theory. That means that when it's kind of statistic, it's like so when you have a certain amount of company in your portfolio, then even all the company fail, but one company make the exit. Basically, it's pay back all the other company. So, as I said, there is a theory here, but of course, in Finland, we know that not all VCs are success. Not all business angels are successful, because I say that in Finland it's very young, and basically these kind of things usually it's get better and better because you learn and you make better investments. As I say, that the first investments didn't went very well in Finland because as I say that it's but as I say that the rate in Finland is much lower than not in other countries, than not in US, for example. Yes.
What in practice is the share of risk with startups? You risk the money of investor, but partially your own money. So if you get much money from the investor, are you liable to return the money to the investor, or you can say, well, I didn't succeed, sorry, but I cannot give you back the money back? What is the...
Depends on the agreement you do. Because usually when the investor invests in equity, of course, if the company succeeds, then the equity price will rise. It's like the exchange where you do, it's like everywhere. If the company bankrupt, of course, the value of the equity is zero, so basically you lose the money. There are mechanisms, what we call this kind of, it's kind of loan, where actually with high interest, so basically the investor give you money, and then you start to pay back the loan when you start to do some turnover whatsoever. So there are few mechanisms. But usually, let's say that the most common is investing in equity, which means that if the company succeeds, then of course we'll make money. If not, then we lose the money. But it's not like that you pay or not to pay. So once has been given the money in terms of equity, then it's done. Yes. Okay, are we done?
Suppose with Sweden, for example, because the countries are very close.
Sweden.
Yes.
Well, Sweden is totally different market from Finland. In Sweden there is much more money. In Finland, in Sweden has been always much richer as a country than not Finland. And in Sweden there are many more kind of startups and many more successful startups than not in Finland. But what about Sweden? that sense, yes, the culture, how the system, it's almost the same. So that's why usually the normal kind of internationalization process for Finnish companies, that always they start to do business in the neighbor countries like Sweden, like Norway, like Denmark, because as I say, the culture is pretty much the same, the habits is pretty much the same. So there's many similarities, and then because it's close here, that's why many companies they start to do that. But as I say, the games company, or not games, but if we speak about service as a software as a service, or this kind of thing, that once you are on the internet or on the app stores or whatsoever, then you are global from the day first. So it depends on the market.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Any other questions? I mean, please, we can discuss after. I mean, stay here, and if you have some specific ideas, questions you would like to discuss with one of us advisors, please
come to us.
And you know, what I would like to say, that despite all of these challenges, I mean, as you know, there's a global boom in startups and in Europe and so forth. So there's never easy money anywhere, and will never be. And that's why we actually exist, City of Helsinki, Health Capital Helsinki, because you need new entrepreneurs need support, advice. And how can you know if you are a researcher? How can you know how to establish a company and so forth? So that's why there is a need for actors like me, and that's also the reason why we organize this event. That we would like to tell you about ourselves, and this will continue every month, as I mentioned earlier, and hopefully gradually, and it will take time, that people start to spread the word that there is a place, NewCo. It's worthwhile to go there and listen, and you get connected and so forth. For instance, in Boston, they said that they have every Friday they have like a coffee bar session for people that work in this Boston area. Let's say for medtech health companies. And there are roughly 350, 400 people. There's free drinks, free coffee, tea, and they're just to mingle, just to discuss. There might be Google, there might be Johnson & Johnson. It's really easy, you know, to discuss, and that's something. I don't know if it's possible to do here, but it would be really nice if we could do it, so that there would be like a Friday, like run some kind of coffee from 2 to 3, and then you would come here and discuss with us, discuss with other people, and it's like an easy way of reaching out to people. And we need to be much more active in this community. And as you know, there's a lot going on in Finland. And I can just give you one good example, actually. Vertical, which is an accelerator based in Helsinki. It's really popular, and it was quite surprising for me. And they are supporting medical medtech companies. And they had 400 applications for the program that now starts this spring. And from Europe, from USA, from Brazil. And it's really surprising that in Europe there are not many like accelerators where they go through these business plans, how to develop your business, and then how to connect with bigger companies. So I'm, even if Luca is quite tough in a way with this, you know, this is the reality. But then on the other hand, I see more lights, you know, in front of me and lights in the tunnel. That much good will come out of this startup like community. And if you think, what is the other alternative? If we don't do it, we don't have too much. So I don't see any, you know, this is the way we have to do it and go.
No, I'm not negative. I'm just telling you to do the right things. Because I say that once you plan right, you decrease the percentage to make mistakes.
Good.
That's it.
Okay.
Nothing else.
And then we will send you this presentation tomorrow, and then I will put some contact names as well. And please be always contact us, just ask. And I'll leave my cards on this table. And then I will send you also this feedback form, and then put some feedback, whatever you would like to hear in the future. And then hopefully I see many of you next month as well here. Please.
Well, I just want to say, like, I mean, I come from Arizona, so it's a small size of land and the same amount of people, but it feels like a big country to me here. Like, people are so educated and have a rich history. Like, ancestors centuries ago made these biodiverse gardens. We have all this water,
Yes.
and we have this social democracy that's really working well. So like, how can you like come in with like honoring that tradition and like there's a time and place for collective peace, but then there's a time to just be like confident and like and not be so afraid to innovate. You know, how can you like kind of overcome that resistance, but also speak to people's listening?
You know, then you have to look at the young people over here. That's the secret.
Okay.
If you think about slush, it's really surprising for me that of any countries in the world, Finland is the country who is leading the biggest startup event global. And we have not been very company friendly in this country if you look at 1980s, 1990s. Just the opposite. When I graduated 89, no one of my colleagues thought about to start an own company. It was no discussion. Nothing. Everyone went to some like mid-sized big or some small family company. And now something happened. 92 or
Well, let's say
I don't know.
the startups.
Yeah.
No, I think 2010, maybe we had this
Yeah.
boom, let's say.
Yeah.
Just one more.
Yes.
Because when we know that so many startups fail,
Yeah.
and there's always some money involved in that, who actually pays for these failures?
Yeah.
We pay.
Well,
But it,
what means?
So basically, as I say that, so in Finland we have people who has money, and especially today more and more, because in Finland, you know, more and more we had exit now in the last few years. But basically, you know,
you can mention business angels.
business angels lose money, venture capitalists lose money, but of course it's like as I said, it's like in the stock exchange. There also people get money and lose money. Depends on how does the stock go up and down. So basically, you know, but
It's interesting as well, and it has to do with this question as well, that Finland is probably the biggest business angels network existing in Finland in Europe, which is also a little bit strange. But they have like 640 members, and the average investment they put in a startup company was 2016 20 million euros. And usually what they do is syndicate to 5 people to spend, the company gets 100. So those are the ones that usually is funding this seed round that you are trying your concepts and so forth. And one of 10 companies they would invest could make some profit. So that one company should compensate for 9. So that's the reality. But don't be, be positive and optimistic. And the good thing with us is that we can then link you to investors, to other people that are looking into your field, what you are developing.
If you allow, so may I also make a comment. So I'm Russian, so I came from Russia, although I've been living here for 17 years also, so I've been on here. And as you know, like the country has passed through it like very dramatic crisis in the end of the century, and since then it's also it has been trying to to get back into the position, and has been reaching out for the expertise and the leadership abroad. Let's cooperate, let's do things together because we've got so many talents and you've got the technologies and so on. And my feeling is that this approach has never been working. So if you go somewhere to learn, then you never get the position you expect. You never have the bounce. So everything which is growing in the country. So I believe it's growing through via the local establishment of the local leadership. So go teach, not to learn. And this is also the Nokia case as well. Nobody has been teaching Nokia how to do things. This has been Nokia which has been teaching others. So in that sense, I think it's this is what I've been keeping asking about the efficiency question. I'm a scientist, I literally nail the things with their own name. So if this is the 30%, this is the success rate. It's a lot of space to improve. So in that sense, I mean, it's rather that it's not the Finland which is learning, it's the whole world which is still doesn't know what to do with the companies which have the ideas to go internationally with their things.
Yeah.
So in that sense, I mean, it's so I always when I feel that Finland is kind of like too humble, so I feel pity about it. So we have all the things to go and start leading instead of learning. So I'm against.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. Thank you very much.